also work with children that have disabilities, they have autism, and my biggest question is, I'm trying to understand, you mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but who created the autism or the disease for a child that didn't have a choice?
Everyone has a choice, and there are a number of things that we want to give you about this. First and foremost, every one of you who makes the decision to come forth into these physical bodies has full view of the physical body you're coming into before you come. So no one gets trapped in a situation that is different from what they want. No exceptions to that. That's helpful to know. Really a downstream feeling thought, isn't it? Now, there are powerful teachers, especially now, who are coming forth, who have been, from their non-physical vantage point, aware that there are so many humans who have forgotten about vibration and alignment, who are disregarding their own guidance system, who are trying to make their life work by trying to control conditions. And the teacher in you knows that anybody that's trying to make anything better by controlling conditions is going to experience a life of futility, because there will always be those conditions you can't control, because it's not your job or your right or your ability to control what's going on in everybody's experience around you. Their lives are their lives to create and control. So rather large numbers of energies are coming in deliberately wanting a physical condition that they can't be talked out of or demanded out of. In other words, they say, I'll go forth and I'll be different enough that you can't pound this square peg into a round hole. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to control me. I'm going to be free, you see. So as you interact with them, if you get the wonderful experience of interacting with them when they're not being challenged by a system that's trying to change them. In other words, imagine how frustrating that would be, to be fulfilling your intent from your source perspective and making it all the way into a physical body different enough that people can't control you, and then notice they're still trying to control you. That's the frustration and outrage that you see in them. They want to say to you, and if they were better with their words, they would say to you, wait a minute, I went to a lot of trouble to be different. You're supposed to leave me alone. And those that are in an environment where somebody's not now trying very hard to make them normal, you called it a disability, they would call it an advantage. In other words, from source perspective, it would go something like, I've decided that I'm going to take the powerful being that I am, and I'm going to go forth into a physical experience, and I'm going to be different enough that you can't control me, which means I'm going to be one of the few people on the planet that you'll ever meet that knows that I am free, because I choose freedom over your approval of me. And then the society, who is embarrassed by them or worried about them, is forever trying to, we'll just find one more way that we can bring you to normalcy. And they've come forth to say, we didn't want to be like you. That's why we chose to be different. We've come to offer a message that there is balance and value in our differences. We've come to teach unconditional love. Most people talk about unconditional love, but they don't live it. Most people say, oh, you're so sweet, I love you under those conditions, and you are so strange, I cannot love you under those. So if you would just be more like that, it would be ever so kind to me, because I want to love you, and if you were more like that, I would be able to love you. So just try to change a little bit so that I can feel better. Where unconditional love says, I want so much to be connected to source that I will see whatever I'm looking at through the eyes of source, which means I do not need you to be different so that I can feel better. I have the ability to adjust my gaze to align myself with source. Unconditional love says, I will find connection with source, and then I will look. Conditional love says, I will ask you to be the way I need you to be so that when I look, I will feel better. Huge difference. Unconditional love is absolute freedom. Conditional love is absolute bondage. So these blessed beings have come forth as teachers of freedom. And interesting, the most interesting thing of all, they feel free even when you try to control them. It's such an interesting thing. So the autistic child feels free and isn't worried about anything. Have you noticed?
Exactly.
And the people that are trying to get them to be different so that they can feel better are in absolute bondage.
Right.
And the child says, I don't know what your problem is. And the teacher or parent says, you're the problem. And the child says, you kind of need to get over that because I can't change. If you're going to interact with me, you've got to discover unconditional love. And when you do, you'll be free like me. And then maybe so many of us won't have to come forth autistically in order to teach this to you. They're having a very good time.
Yeah.
Watch them up close and feel the joy of their being. And tell them, you need not change a hair for me.
Bless you. That's right. Thank you.